What's up today, folks? Did y'all know that McDonald's brought their Monopoly game back? Hold on. Yeah, it's a giant Coke. Don't even get mad at me. I've drank really good this week. Almost no caffeine, even though I was driving 8 hours a day. I've earned this Coke. My nose itches though. So they brought back Monopoly. What did I win? Oh good, it's a railroad thing, which means I'll never win anything. I never won the railroad. I like the free stuff though. Anyway, so, I probably should put the straw in there so I can actually drink my Coke. Coca-Cola, not cocaine. I know what y'all be thinking. This guy's energetic. He has cocaine. I'm off today. It is Tuesday, and I'm off work because I actually had a work weekend. I worked all weekend. A little bit about my new job before I get into this. I stocked Ross stores. You know, Ross Dress for Less. You know, the ones that I champion and talk about a lot. I actually stocked the stores around Salt Lake City, surrounding area, and even up into Idaho now. So I was going up all the way to Rexburg, which is almost in Yellowstone, all weekend, and doing that. And then they gave me a day off just to have a day off before my normal week starts. And then I'm back to my normal schedule. So good. All right. So, I know some people have like been waiting on this little story because I've mentioned it before multiple times. Shoot, I should have went straight. Oh well, I'll go left. We'll sit in the Costco parking lot because we need to go to Costco. So I kept forgetting to do the story for one, but also I don't like talking about it. It's not hard for me to talk about it. I just don't like talking about it because it was, I've been to war zones. This was the hardest time of my life because I felt so powerless to do anything. I've never felt like that. And this is the only time I ever felt like that. And it had very profound effects on my life and the trajectory that I would take after all of this. And now, so this happened back in 2015, the end of 2015. It was like October, like end of October or November. I can't remember exactly what month. I know that it extended over Christmas because we didn't have our daughter for Christmas that year. So we didn't celebrate Christmas that year. So I was not married yet. A lot happens in this story. I'll try to make it not take too long. But so anyway, my kid was, before she was born, one of the first ultrasounds that we had done, they actually legitimately offered us what they call termination, which is abortion, if you don't know, within the first ultrasound, because what they saw was a very rare birth defect, and I'm talking extremely rare, like struck by lightning rare, called Dandy Walker syndrome. What they suspected was Dandy Walker syndrome. And what that is a genetic defect where your brain doesn't form the cerebellum. If you ever look at that little puffy thing that's at the very back of the brain, you have your brain, and then it looks like there's another small brain at the bottom. That's the cerebellum. It connects to the brain stem. And that area of the brain is responsible for fine motor functions like walking, speaking, even eating, and talking, things like that. I said speaking. So fine motor functions are very hard, but cognitively you can still think the same. You still understand what everybody's saying. It's just kids with Dandy Walker syndrome tend to have a harder time learning to walk and speak. So it's really close to like cerebral palsy. And often cerebral palsy does come with Dandy Walker syndrome. So now my daughter she's about to turn 11 years old, and she is diagnosed with cerebral palsy. She's disabled, and she's disabled for life. She will need 24/7 care the rest of her life. I drive by Costco, yeah, because I'm talking. So that makes life tough, right? And that is why they immediately offered us termination, and it pissed me off. I was like, what? So why would you offer that? So we went back home and kind of learned what Dandy Walker syndrome really was, and if that was what she really had. A couple ultrasounds later, we went to a neurologist. They diagnosed it, said, yeah, that's Dandy-Walker syndrome. But there's hope. You know, most kids with Dandy-Walker syndrome, they do have a harder life. They're disabled. They're probably going to be in a wheelchair, but she might learn to walk. She might learn to talk. But other than that, she would typically be fairly healthy, you know. And we were like, does it hurt? No, it doesn't hurt. It's not painful or anything like that. And that's ultimately why we decided we'll go ahead and have the baby. So, had the baby, everything's fine. In Wilmington, North Carolina, which is where we live, that hospital was great. And eventually, we moved to the Charlotte area. And we were only there for a year. And this is why. So, when we got there, she started having more health issues that weren't just the neurological stuff. And eventually okay, so I forgot to mention, with Dandy-Walker syndrome, typically you also have epilepsy, some form of epilepsy. So she has seizures. And one night she had a really bad one. It just wouldn't stop. I was at work, actually. And I left work and ended up going to the hospital to see her, but like she started having a seizure and it wouldn't stop. I remember getting a video from, we weren't married yet, but my ex-wife sent me a video while I was at work of her having this seizure, and it was scary. Like, it wasn't like crazy, like doing all that. It was just like twitching eyes, and she, like, her mouth was twitching. It was scary. But I was like, if it's not stopping within like 5 to 10 minutes, just go ahead and take her to the hospital. So she took her to the hospital. I left work, and by the time I got to that hospital, they were getting ready to transfer her to Levine Children's Hospital. They are going to be a big part of this. So she went to Levine. Levine Children's Hospital is an elite, renowned children's hospital. One of the best children's hospitals in this country. So we went there. That's where they did a little extra work and finally got her diagnosed, not diagnosed, but prescribed with a better seizure medication than we had. She was only there for a couple days. It was a really good stay. Like, they were really on top of their game. The doctor we had there was awesome. The team that took care of her in the hospital, in the room, they were amazing. Like, I was like, I can see, these speed bumps are crazy. I can see why this is a renowned children's hospital. It was awesome. It was a really good experience. So, by this point, our daughter's like somewhere between 6 to 8 months old. I think she was 8 months. Let's see, if it happened in October. No, this was the first time, so it was a couple months before. So yeah, she was about 8 months, 8 or 9 months. So it was a good experience. Now, within a couple of months after that, she started getting this rash. Babies get rashes, you know, usually nothing to worry about. You take them to the, I almost said vet, but the pediatrician, and, you know, get some rash medication safe for babies and apply it. It goes away. This was way worse. Like, it wasn't just a rash. Like, this was, I could tell it was painful for her. And come on, dude, get out of the fucking way. People see this Jeep and they just stare at it instead of moving. But yeah, this was not going away. I could tell it was painful for her. And it was just kept spreading. No matter what we tried, we took her to the hospital a couple times, or at least the pediatrician. They would give us different things to try. Nothing worked. Nothing worked. And eventually, this rash had gone all the way up her back. It was almost all over her entire body. We were trying everything. We were like, what the fuck is going on? So we went to the local hospital, which was in Rock Hill, South Carolina. It's near Charlotte. And we actually requested this time. It was like, can you transfer us to Levine? Because the last time we went there, it was amazing. Like, they were really good. It was a great experience. They were like, okay, yeah, because she has Dandy-Walker syndrome. Like, local hospitals were like terrified of like trying to do anything with her because they didn't understand Dandy-Walker syndrome. Most doctors don't know what this thing is. I'm betting that 99.9% of you have never heard of this until now, this video. So a lot of doctors didn't know what to do around it. And it was just, you treat baby the same. It's that you're not going to hurt the baby. So anyway, but yeah, they transferred her to Levine a second time. This is where everything started to go downhill. So immediately there's this doctor, and she had an ego trip. She had an ego, and she's like, give us a little bit of history on this. Like, where did this all start? Well, she was diagnosed with Andy-Walker syndrome and an ultrasound, and then by a neurologist twice. And we were just telling her about, how the rash came about, what we were trying to do. Nothing ever worked. And our daughter was also like smaller than she should. She was born premature. It was a C-section. So she was small, but healthy. And this doctor was like, she doesn't have Dandy-Walker syndrome. And we're like, yeah, she does. She has Dandy-Walker syndrome. What are you talking about? But she kept denying it. And it was pissing my ex-wife off. And I'm sitting there trying to I'm like, we need to tell her she's wrong, but like, don't argue too much, because if this doctor starts to be stupid, we're going to have to transfer her to another hospital or something like that. I wasn't suspecting that at the time. It's hard to remember all the details because this was 10 years ago. I need to take a drink of my Coke. But yeah, this doctor was also really judgy. Now, by this time, even this is 10 years ago, y'all know I have a lot of tattoos. My ex-wife had a lot of tattoos. But we were professional people. Like, you've seen me talk. I'm well-spoken. I know I am. My ex-wife was also well-spoken and intelligent. And I don't know. I don't know what was going on in this doctor's head. But she constantly tried to talk down to us. She was very condescending. Complete opposite of the first time we went to visit. And we're just like, can you just take care of our kid? We told you the problem. And eventually they did some tests. And it came back and said she has extremely low zinc levels in her body. And that's what was causing the rash. It's also what was causing her malnourishment. But we didn't even know there was malnourishment. Nobody had ever caught that before, the zinc issue. So when they said malnourishment, I was like, well, we're feeding her. We're feeding her. She eats all the time. Like, she ate more than normal babies would eat. And she would eat almost anything. So I was like, well, she eats great. We've told the doctors how much we feed her. We're like, is this too much? And they're like, no, you're feeding her good. But they finally found the malnourishment issue, which was zinc absorption. And that causes a malnourishment issue. It doesn't matter how much you eat. If your body's not absorbing zinc, your body doesn't process nutrients correctly. So we were like, we found the problem. Thank you. Even though you're an asshole, doctor, we found the problem. But no, she kept arguing with us about things. I don't remember what it was, but eventually she had pissed my ex-wife off enough to where she just blew up on her. She snapped. She argued back with her. She raised her voice with the doctor. And I'm like, okay, the doctor deserves that. But all right, let's just get through this. And then I finally went back to work. I had used up all my PTO. I had to go to work. We've been there for a few days. And I eventually was at work, and I got a call from our daughter's grandma, which was my ex-wife's mom. She texts me or calls me or something and tells me that the police are at the hospital and they're going to take our daughter. So fucking panic mode right then. I'm like, I'm leaving. I gotta go. They, of course, work understood. Left work, and I was probably only about 20 minutes away from the hospital. So I go to the hospital, and there's cops at the door in the hospital. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? I just blew by these guys. Even the police got the fuck out of my way, because I'm a combat vet. I was an NCO and I was a squad leader. I've been in combat. When I get mad, like legitimately mad, people move the fuck out of the way. Even the police were like, I was like, don't worry about me. I'm not going to do anything stupid. Move. So anyway, I got in the room. My daughter's fine. She's okay. They've given her some zinc injections. And that was the plan. We were going to give her zinc injections to see if she comes around, see if she's fine. But no, the police were there. Why were the police there? Well, my ex-wife hadn't done anything wrong. Nothing wrong. She hadn't even yelled. But this doctor with this fucking ego trip had called child services on us because she looked at us like we weren't feeding our child. even though she'd literally just found the zinc issue that was causing the problems. We'd requested to go to that specific hospital because we couldn't figure it out. Why would we request to go to a hospital to have them figure it out if we weren't doing everything we could? Fucking doctor, man. So yeah, we got in there. We were allowed to be with our kid until the child services woman came in there, and she immediately knew something was up because we had toys in there with her. You could tell that this kid was loved and cared for. She just had medical issues, and we were trying to figure it out. And this woman started crying. She was actually trying, I don't remember what the hospital rep is, but he's like the advocate, the patient advocate or something like that. He's supposed to be on the patient's side, but he was in there too. And this child services rep was like, these people aren't abusing their child. They're not neglecting their child. Do you see all these toys and things in here? Do you see that they brought everything? They brought their whole life with her to be in this hospital with her. People who are neglecting their child don't do this. And the patient advocate wasn't here. He was like, well, here's what had happened is my ex-wife requested that we transfer hospitals because this doctor was being so condescending and we didn't trust her anymore. I forgot that detail. So we requested to be transferred to Columbia, and the doctor was like, well, you'll have to pay for the ambulance ride. And we were like, yeah, okay, fine, we'll pay for the fucking ambulance ride, you condescending bitch. I didn't say that, but that's what was going on in my head. I had a decent job. We were on but our daughter had Medicaid, Medicare, Medicaid, I think it's Medicaid. So they were looking at us like we were poor, and we didn't have money, but I had a good job. I was like, we can pay for that, just transfer her. And that's when she decided, I'll call child services. She didn't want to have a blemish on her record. She didn't want to look like she didn't know what the fuck she was doing. She knew she was wrong, so she put it all on us. She threw us under the bus and called child services. So child services lady's there. She knows something's wrong. She actually legitimately told us, she's like, I don't think you did anything wrong, but lawfully, I have to ask you to leave. We have to take custody of your child now. Nothing I could do. I'm trying to keep my cool as best I can. There's police in there. I could go to fucking jail if I blow up. When I tell you, that is the most self-control I've ever had in my life. I wanted to rip that doctor's fucking throat out. I wanted to fucking kill her right then and there. I wanted to fucking murder her. I'm here today. I'm not in jail, so I didn't. So, I don't remember this doctor's name or the patient advocate's name. That'll come up later. So, we had to leave. You know, there's no fucking words for that. The hospital medically kidnapped our daughter. They took our daughter. They made us leave. There was nothing we could do. So, I was so angry. I know I kissed my daughter. I told her, we'll be back. We'll get you out. You'll be fine. She's only about a year old at this point. Still can't speak. She was sitting up on her own. She was starting to try to crawl. So that's progress for a baby with Dandy Walker syndrome. Now, I've not mentioned thus far, but she also was oddly allergic to corn. That's a weird allergy, but she was allergic to corn. You wouldn't know it, but corn syrup is in a lot of baby formula. Now, my wife had tried to breastfeed, but she couldn't produce enough milk for some reason. I don't know. We had to feed her baby formula. Remember, I said she was eating a lot. She was eating baby food, but anything with corn syrup in it, she would vomit. She would just throw it back up. Anything with corn syrup in it. And we told the doctor this. Doctor denied that too. So, for a fucking month, a whole month, we had no idea what this hospital was doing to our kid. We finally got a court date to go in and talk to the judge or whatever and tell them what happened. Went in a court date. Judge wasn't hearing it. Treated us like shit. Literally nothing we said. We were like, this doctor did this. You know, they weren't listening to us. Here's all of her diagnoses. The child services rep said we were fine. We literally thought we were going to get her back that day. Judge basically told us, kick rocks, fuck off. You're in the wrong. And we were like, what the fuck did we do? What did we fucking do? Nothing. We did nothing. Like, I don't understand. To this day, I don't understand what the fuck was going on in these people's heads. So, the court then appointed a guardian for our kid. This went on for a few more weeks. A court-appointed guardian is supposed to be there with that kid to make sure that she's fine. Okay? The court-appointed guardian calls us and tells us that the fucking hospital won't let her in there to see our kid. At this point, we're freaking out because we're like, this hospital is going to fucking kill our kid. They're going to fucking kill her. We don't know what they're doing. She's got diagnoses of different or neurological issues and nutrient absorption issues. She's allergic to things, and the hospital is denying it over and over, and they won't let the court-appointed guardian in there to see her. They're trying to kill our kid. That's the logical thinking, right? So eventually the court is able to work out a time where we can go visit our kid. We go visit our kid, and we can actually sit down and talk with these fucking hospital people. Not the doctor or the customer advocate or patient advocate. They weren't there. These were like doctor lawyers. Okay, where the fuck is this going? So we went in there and we visited our kid first. Now, she was plump. They'd made her like fat, like a kid would be. So her cheeks were like fat. She was fat. A lot of kids are fat. And a lot of times that means healthy. And that's what the hospital was thinking. But when you go in there, you could smell vomit. The whole room smelled like vomit. So we knew they were feeding her the stuff that she was allergic to. And they were just pumping her full of calories. And not nutrients, just calories. She looked sickly. She had like a weird pink, like sickly pink. Not good, healthy pink. I'm healthy pink. I'm white pink. She was like sickly pink. Even though she'd gained some weight. She looked sick. Like she looked like she had brain fog. Like her brain wasn't working. And I'm not saying this from like a traumatized, like weird point of view. Like, I'm a logical person. That's how she looked. She seemed really off. But also, she'd been left in a fucking hospital room alone at a year old for hours and hours and hours. Nobody was with her. No one. She was used to having someone with her all the time doing everything for her. So she was laying on her back, wasn't sitting up. Now remember, I said she was sitting up on her own. No, she was just laying on her back. That's all she could do. Man, that shit. So we got to visit her for a little bit. And my ex-wife could barely stay in there. She had to leave. Because it bothered her too much. So I was in there with a kid. I held her, picked her up, saw her. I think I took a picture. Or maybe pictures weren't allowed. I don't remember. But yeah. Seeing her like that really got to my ex-wife. Again, we weren't married yet. So, after that, we had to go meet with these hospital lawyers. And they're hounding my ex-wife. They're just basically just getting down in her face, shoving information down her throat, and she just couldn't process it all. Now, it could be said that my ex-wife believes, she never was diagnosed, but she believes that she may have had ASD, autism spectrum disorder. So she might have been on the spectrum somewhere. So she had auditory processing issues. If you throw too much information at her too fast, her brain's like, I don't know what you're saying. So I knew this. I wasn't going to put her business out there in front of these lawyers because I didn't want them to take advantage of it. So I eventually piped in. I was there. They didn't ask me shit. They weren't talking to me. They were acting like I wasn't there. Eventually I'm like, why? Hey, chill. Why is no one talking to me? I'm her fucking father. I've been here the whole time. Why are you not talking to me? And they very politely and calmly told me, in the state of South Carolina, which is where you live, if you're not married, it doesn't matter if you're the biological father. You have no legal right to your child. What the fuck? What? Are you fucking crazy? And like, I almost blew up on these people too. Like, oh my fucking God. So I remember they talked a little bit more. Eventually, my ex-wife's mom kind of took over the conversation. She was like, she's not signing anything. Okay, we don't trust you people. We're not signing anything, which meant we couldn't get our kid out. I don't remember what all they wanted us to sign. But it was not good stuff. It was basically, they were basically trying to get us to sign to say we wouldn't sue their asses. They knew they were wrong. Like, I could tell that's what it was. They weren't admitting any fault, but they were trying to get us to sign some shit that we didn't understand. So at that point, we left. We didn't get our kid back that day. We left. We went to a lawyer. So the lawyer basically told us everything he could do. He's like, all I can do is just try to get her out. We'll try to negotiate. We'll try to get her out. Eventually, they did. It took a couple of weeks, but this lawyer negotiated with him. We had to pay out of pocket for this. I don't remember how much it was. It was a lot of money. And my ex-wife's family had to help us. So we got her out of the hospital. We got her to fuck out. It took a month and a half. It was January when we finally got her out. And they stunted her development. She never sat up on her own again. They basically crippled her. They crippled her because they hurt her neurologically. They hurt her. Physically, maybe not. Even though they were feeding her stuff, she was vomiting up. She was getting nutrients. We figured out the zinc issue. And I remember my ex-wife asking, I'll back up in a minute, but I remember my ex-wife asking, is there a zinc supplement, like zinc drops, like liquid zinc? And they told us no, there's nothing like that. There is. You can literally get it on fucking Amazon. Zinc supplements, dropper. That's all we asked. I was like, if you can give us that, we'll give that to her at home. But for some reason, they didn't trust her or trust us that we were going to do that. We did nothing wrong. What the fuck? So, after that meeting with the stupid lawyers in the hospital, I had essentially told them, I was like, since I have no legal right to my kid, the next time you see us, we will be married. We will be married. So that I can have a legal right to tell you to shut the fuck up. Give me my kid. And we did. A day later, me and her mom went and got married at a chapel in York, South Carolina. And we were married. So legally, I could actually do something about my kid being fucking kidnapped by a crazy bitch doctor that I wanted to fucking kill. So, yeah, we went to talk to the lawyer. They negotiated all this stuff. I was finally able to sign some stuff and play a part in my kid's life legally. And we got her out. So, this whole ordeal rightfully gave my wife at the time PTSD. Because we thought that they were going to kill our kid. And it gave her PTSD. That's understandable. Yeah. Now, this manifested over time. So we're out of this whole situation. What's the fallout from all of this? Now they gave my wife PTSD. I have PTSD from the military. Those types of PTSDs don't really mix very well. That's when we started having a big rift because she became really controlling. Again, I've talked about this in a different video, but I never placed blame on her. I never placed blame on her because the hospital did this shit. She became really controlling and critical of things that I would do, the way I would do things, because I get it. I understand. I tried to fucking be, understanding. And I was like, I'll stay, I had my kid. We were married. We'll work it out. We'll fucking figure it out somehow. It was not going to work. It was never going to work. So 5 years later, we eventually, actually, let me back up. We divorced, but that was 5 years later. Anyway, so it's still 2015, 2016 had just started. I remember during all of this, in the hospital thing, there was one of our friends started up a GoFundMe account or something like that to give us or help us with money so that we could pay lawyers. I forgot to mention that. But also, a lot of people, now I was Christian. I didn't go to church, I was Christian. A lot of people were like, thoughts and prayers. Thoughts and prayers. That's what the same thing they say after all these school shootings. Thoughts and prayers, right? It doesn't do shit. It never does anything. And I had said that in the first place. Thoughts and prayers don't do anything. They don't help. We need money. We need people to speak up for us and take up for us and give testimonies and references that we are not the kind of people that this fucking doctor accused us of being. And that's ultimately what helped to get her out. Thoughts and prayers didn't get her out. Prayers, fucking pray. God did not help get my kid out of here. So I remember my grandma telling me, everything will be all right. This is all a test. God is testing you. I don't fucking need to be tested. I've been tested. I've been to combat. I've been in war zones. I grew up poor. I had a tough life. I had a good childhood, but I've been through some shit. I've been tested. I'm fine. I am galvanized. I am tempered fucking steel at this point. Okay? I don't need to be tested. Why is my less than 1 year old daughter, who has no concept of religion or what God is, why is she in a room alone being fed shit she's allergic to, wondering why the fuck her parents left her in a hospital bed twice alone? Fuck that. If this is a test from God, I want no part of it. I don't want anything to do with it. Either God is not real or God is a fucking asshole. And that's exactly why I left religion. That's why I'm no longer Christian. I say I'm atheist to most people because most people don't understand what agnostic means. I think I'm leaning more agnostic. I don't know. And that's the thing. You don't know. But I know I'm not Christian. I will never be Christian again. Because if that's the kind of God that Christians follow, fuck that. That God's a narcissist. If he's real, fuck it. Strike me down. It ain't going to happen. I don't believe in it. I don't believe in that God. So that's why I left religion. And part of it is like, you look back in the Bible, stories of the Bible, very narcissistic deity that Jehovah is. So yeah, after all of that, I'm no longer Christian. Never will be. So that's why I left religion. Now, I've explained why I got married, why I left religion. Again, she became very controlling and critical of me in general, which of course men don't like. Generally, that's masculinity in your head doesn't accept people being very critical of the way you do things and trying to control the way you speak and the way you do or just live your life, I guess. I felt like I had no agency in my life. Now, if you want to learn everything from here on, I'll try to remember to link the other video where I talked about how I had become passive suicidal and then eventually called for a divorce, split, left, moved, and that's how I ended up where I am today. Man, so this hospital medically kidnapped my daughter because of the words of a crazy egotistical doctor and a patient advocate that was not on our side at all. Eventually ripped me away from religion and ruined my marriage. You know, we weren't a toxic couple. We had arguments. Everybody has arguments. But it got to a point where I just couldn't take it anymore as a man. Like, I just couldn't. And she became more liberal, more feminist after all of this. And I suspect that probably also had a reason to do or something to do with it. For her becoming that kind of person. The victim complex. I've talked about the liberal victim complex, the feminist victim complex. I think that she wasn't like this before, but I think that played into it because she felt so helpless. I felt helpless, but she went more down the rabbit hole of the victim complex thing. And I couldn't do it. I couldn't be around a person like that anymore. It was going to kill me. I know it sounds bad that I left, but I had to, or I was going to be a dead man. I was going to die. Just even my health was failing. You know, I was getting really unhealthy. My blood pressure had gone through the roof, so I've been on blood pressure medicine ever since then. It doesn't go down. It doesn't matter how healthy I am. I'm a very calm, laid-back person now. I eat great, exercise. It doesn't matter. I still have to take blood pressure medication, and I probably will for the rest of my life. I think it's probably a genetic thing, but it got worse after all of this. That shit changes you, man. When you think somebody's going to kill your kid and you don't know what the fuck's going on because she's kidnapped for over a month, that fucks your head up and that fucks your health up. And then after that, you got somebody who becomes really controlling and their morals in life and their way of life and the way that they view things does not align with you anymore. You got to cut it off. You got to leave. or you'll die. So that's what I did. I left. We separated. Then a year later, divorce. North Carolina requires you to be separated for a year first, so we divorced. But yeah, that's what happened. And now I live in Utah. So I'm happy now, you know, and I get updates on my kid from her mom. I pay child support. I was paying child support before North Carolina mandated that I pay child support. Once the divorce went through, we had to put it in there. We had to put the child support in there. So it's through the state now, but I was manually voluntarily, Jesus, paying the child support before that. So I'm being as responsible as I can be, even though I'm not a part of my kid's life anymore. I'm not. Now, ever since we separated, I don't know if weird's the word for it. I say weird, but her mom's been weird about it. Like, I maybe she feels betrayed that I left. Now, this was 5 years later. I stayed for 5 years. I tried to make it work. It wasn't going to work. My original plan was to just move. We moved back to Wilmington, North Carolina after all of this. We got away from the hospital, was really what it was. And my original plan was just to move back near Charlotte, so it'd only be a few hours away so that I could visit my kid. But I kept looking. I couldn't find work, a good job. And I knew a good job would be in Pennsylvania because I'd been there a lot through work. So I eventually just moved to Pennsylvania. I was like, look, I can pay child support and I can have a good life. And our plan was split, and she would go move near her family after a year. I'd give her a year, pay child support voluntarily. She was supposed to move to near her family. That just didn't happen. So I don't get much updates about their life anymore. I don't want to get into all of that, but there's some things that I have discovered that I'm like, what the fuck? But as long as she's taking care of my kid, I'm not a kid. I'm part of my kid's life anymore. I haven't seen her in over a year. Actually, almost 2 years at this point. And it's because, again, the controlling nature of her mom and how that came about. Again, I'm not placing blame on her. This hospital did this shit. But I would try to go see her for her birthday. Denied every time because she was always going down to her family and said they'd be too busy. Same thing with Christmas, any other holiday. I would have to go in the middle of fucking a random month, you know, to go see. And it was always made difficult. Every time I'd go down there to visit, I would only get to see her for like an hour because I could only see her outside in a park. And it would all... Weather in North Carolina sucks. It's always going to be raining or it's going to be too fucking hot or too cold. And I was never able to see her very much. So I'm spending all my time and money going down there to see my kid, who I'm virtually not even involved with anymore other than paying child support. And I started looking back on my life and my dad, who I've never met. And I was just like, if my dad tried to insert himself into my life twice a month or an hour at a time, I would get really annoyed. I would have gotten annoyed at some point. Or by the time I was a teenager or something, you know? And I started thinking, I was like, maybe it's better if I just stay away. Maybe if I just support her financially. If she needs anything, good, I'll help. But I'll just stay away. And that's what it's been. I hate saying that. I hate that I don't see my kid. I hate it. I think about this shit every fucking day. It bothers me a lot. I don't like talking about it with people when they ask me. You know, when I'm dating. And, you know, of course, woman asks you, you know, don't you see your kid? Don't you feel bad? Of course I'll fucking feel bad. But no, I don't see her. I don't see her. I made a conscious decision to get away because of all of this that I've just mentioned. All of that. And that's the whole story. Like, I can't tell part of the story without looking like I'm a fucking asshole. It takes almost a fucking hour to tell this story. And, you know, I've told some women the full story. They can look on this YouTube channel and get the whole story if they want. But sometimes you'll tell people that, and they'll be like, you're so damaged. You've been through so much. Like, look, that's not something I went through. That's something my daughter went through, and it pissed me the fuck off. It shouldn't have happened. All right? But the fallout of all of that changed everything. You know, it's why I'm single now. It's why I got married, and it's why I ended up getting divorced, which is crazy. It's crazy. Hopefully I didn't forget too much. Oh, the one last thing. So a little while later, we finally got a pediatrician in Wilmington, North Carolina, and we kept trying to get our hospital records, because you're thinking, why the fuck didn't you sue these people? Why didn't you sue them? You could have sued them. It was malpractice, right? Yeah, of course it was. So the lawyer that we had could never get her hospital records for some reason. They kept holding them. Like a year later, we went to our pediatrician, and they finally requested hospital records. They hounded Levine Children's Hospital. Remember that name, because these people were pieces of shit. They hounded Levine Children's Hospital. They finally sent the records. So I went to pick them up at her doctor. And these hospital records was like a book. It was this fucking thick. Hundreds of pages. Yeah, it was a lot. And when you looked at these records, it was a bunch of nonsense. Like they'd made it up. And the things that were official literally had CIA-style redacted text, like black lines. So you didn't know what they did. We checked with the lawyer one last time. We gave him these hospital records, and he's like, he read through them, and he's like, the way they redacted everything, it definitely looks suspicious, but nothing in here looks illegal. And he believed 100% that they knew they were in the wrong, and they had performed medical malpractice. They had wrongfully called Child Protective Services against us and had us removed from the situation because they knew they were wrong, and they didn't want a blemish on their perfect fucking record at that hospital. This hospital had also removed, we both checked this, they removed the doctor and the patient advocate's names from the staff listing on the hospital so that nobody could go after them. And that's why we didn't sue. That's why we never got anything out of that. I don't know how big of a lawsuit that could have been, but probably fucking big. Because they literally harmed our daughter. They made her life harder. To this day, she's in a wheelchair, and she always will be. She's never learned to speak. She's almost 11 years old. Here in about a week is her birthday. Actually, not about a week, in a few days. So she never learned to speak. She's probably never going to walk. She's had medical issues. Now she has scoliosis, which does hurt. She is in pain for that. I help in whatever way I can. You know, her mom doesn't ask me for stuff. One day I just randomly saw a post that she had made a fucking GoFundMe for a child seat. A car seat, a new car seat. And I was like, why the fuck didn't you just ask me? So I bought the new car seat and had it sent to her. Next day shipping. But that's my relationship with my daughter now. Is I help monetarily. That's about all I can do. Because her mom, through PTSD and other issues, kind of pushed me out in the first place. It is what it is. So I'm cutting this video out now because it bothers me. It gets to me, you know. But yeah, I'm at Costco, and I'm gonna go get a rotisserie chicken to do some meal prep for the next few days, because my days for until Saturday start at midnight, and then this weekend I have a trip to Los Angeles for basically soaking in the vibes for my next book. Yep, y'all have a good one.